So we've already announced our next festival,
Okay.
and that's going to take place in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil.
All right, ravers, welcome back to Fuera del Track, the magazine of electronic music. Today we have a special guest, the co-founder of a festival who is integrating well-being, who's integrated music and spirituality. We welcome David Strzepek, the owner of Amazoul Fest. How you been, man?
Good, buddy. Thanks for
Doing
having
good?
me. Thank you. How are you?
Nice, doing excellent, man. Perfect. How did you get into the electronic music scene?
It kind of stumbled into it. So, I'm originally from New Jersey. I
Okay.
grew up 20 minutes outside of New York, and I've always had a passion for music. But I moved to Medellin trying to get more into the music industry. I think that Medellin is definitely on the rise. I think it's one of the future for music, one of the future cities. Not just, house and electronic music, but you see it in reggaeton, right? You see how Nicky Jam moved here. He credits Medellin to his rebirth in his career, and a lot of the new artists, Fade and Blessed and all these artists. So in music in general, I think Medellin has a lot to offer, and I wanted to switch careers into the music scene. So that was my goal when I first moved here, and that's kind of how it started.
So how is your background? You didn't do parties before. This was your very first big project in the electronic industry?
Well, officially I was in real estate.
Okay.
So I was, like a developer. We would buy properties that were in bad condition, fix them, sell them. So that was my profession for over 10 years. But I went to a really big school. I went to Rutgers University, and I was a promoter when I was in school. So whenever, I had a large network. Like I said, it was a big school. I had a very large network. Whenever it came down to doing events, birthdays, people with ski trips, we would go skiing. People would always come to me. It would always be my job to organize, where we would stay, how would we get there, the logistics of it. I just never really did it as a job.
Gotcha.
But that kind of grew as time went on because I was always doing it. And then one day I said to myself, if I did this right, we can make something special.
And that's what you're doing right now.
That's what we're
So
trying to
special.
do with Amazoul.
Cool.
Yeah.
For those who might not know Amazoul Fest, how do you would describe it in a sentence?
Amazoul is an exotic international experience that combines music, wellness, but more importantly, community. What we wanted to do is differentiate ourselves from other festivals. So when you go to festivals like BPM, Ultra, or Buena Vida, you really only get the party. The party's all day long, and that's all that they really have to offer. But if you're going to make the effort of traveling to a different country, if you're going to take time off from work, if you're going to spend the money, then I always felt that you should be able to get more out of it. So the goal for Amazoul is to kind of combine those things where you get to do these activities, you get to eat meals together, you get to experience the local culture, the local cuisine, the local food. When you leave that festival, that experience, you leave with new relationships, you leave with new friendships, you leave with a once in a lifetime, an unforgettable experience. So it's a community building experience more than just a festival.
Okay, and how was it born? How did the idea come up to your mind?
It's a good question. It was kind of, it wasn't planned. I had actually planned a trip to go to Ibiza.
Okay.
Me and my partner, my co-founder, Matt, we planned a trip. We had 10 guys, and we were in Ibiza. And on the last day of the trip, we just kind of last minute said, why don't we do a private villa party? Because we had a nice villa. So we did a private villa party, and we had awesome DJs play. And then next thing you know, other DJs are showing up. So we had Miguel and Tons perform.
Okay.
We had Exotic perform. We had Cortez, who's a friend of mine. We had Jesse Coloso, who's from New York. All these DJs just started showing up unannounced. All these people, next thing you know, there's 100 people in my living room. I've never been to Ibiza. I didn't know most of the people from Argentina, Colombia,
All around the world.
Spain, America. So I remember turning to my friend Matt, and the energy was what made it special. The DJs were playing for free. They just wanted to play. The people were dancing. The energy, the connection, even though it was people from different countries and different cultures, different languages, everybody got along so well. And I remember looking to my friend Matt and I said, if we really put our energy into this, and it wasn't just something, oh, let's just have a party. If we did, no, let's just make something, we could do something special. So that's kind of how it started. A few weeks later, we were back in Jersey. We were having dinner, had a few glasses of wine, and the ideas just kind of started to spin. It just kind of took off from there.
So it's Matt, and do you have any other people who were key maybe on that process?
No, for the most part, it's me and Matt. I wouldn't be here without him. He's helped me a tremendous amount. I mean, it's the two of us. And, I try to keep a small group. We are small, almost like a family. So we definitely keep it in-house. Since we've grown a little bit over the past few months, we have brought on Anna, who's our creative director. She's helped us grow the brand and execute on a lot of our ideas. But besides that, it is a very small group.
I see. Creating a festival from scratch is huge. But what was the first obstacle that you saw, and how did you overcome it?
Besides being a gringo, trying to negotiate in Colombia, putting that aside, the biggest obstacle was probably not having a proof of concept.
Okay.
So trying to sell people on an idea that didn't have, footage, didn't have validation. I couldn't show what it's like in the past. So people had to just believe me, trust me. That was the hardest part, is trying to sell people on an idea.
Right. And
on my word. But once people started to see, we had little private events, small events in Guatapé. I did an event, in Miami. We did a boat party. We had 4 boats tied together,
nice.
4 yachts. So we had little events here and there, and people started to see what we were trying to do. But definitely the hardest part was trying to sell an idea that didn't really exist.
And that first edition, where did it take place to? And what was special about it?
So we decided to do it. It was Medellin, but we decided to do it mostly in Guatapé.
Mm-hmm.
I love Medellin, but I feel like the general, Antioquia or this general area has much more to offer from nature and from, the beautiful landscapes. Facts. So I felt that if we got ourselves, if you're in Medellin, you can get lost in the traffic and the noise and everything going on. But if you're in Guatapé, you really have there's not that much going on.
Right.
You can appreciate the nature, you can appreciate the weather, but you're together. You're in the middle of nowhere as a group. So that made it more special. So from 4 out of the 5 days, we were mostly in Guatapé.
So it was 5 days at Guatapé?
5 days here, 1 night in Medellin and 4 in Guatapé.
I see. And what activities did it offer over there in Guatapé?
So that's again how we wanted to really differentiate from other festivals. A lot of festivals, it starts right at noon. You have the first DJs going on stage, so you're just partying. And as you get older, I'm not that young anymore. I'm in my 30s. That's hard. It's hard to do that.
That's still young.
It's hard. It's still hard. It gets hard. The next day you're not back on your feet anymore. So we wanted to have activities during the day and then a party or a social event at night. Some of the things we incorporated were yoga, we had hiking, we had jet skis, we offered ATVs, we made a pit stop for lunch where people were able to ride horses, we were able to feed llamas. So again, definitely incorporating nature, incorporating physical activity, mind wellness, with the yoga, well-being. You don't want to come back from a vacation feeling like you need another vacation.
Right.
So we wanted people to be able to relax during the day, appreciate the beauty of Colombia, and then have a social event at night to mingle and make relationships.
That sounds tremendous. How did the audience react to it?
It was honestly better than I could have expected. 2 weeks before the festival, there were so many changes, so many uncertainty factors, not to mention during the festival it rained most of the time. There was so much stress that going into the festival, I didn't think I would ever want to do it again.
Okay.
Me and my partner said, we might just do this one and I never want to hear the word Amazoul again. But the reaction from the people, I was getting text messages thanking me, saying it was the best trip of their life, that it was something that they really needed. I felt that even after, even though it's been a few years since COVID, I feel like the world's still been a little weird since the whole COVID thing happened, being locked down, being shut down. And and connecting and traveling has all been different. Everything's different now, but people felt that it was so real, it was organic. They made friendships. I see friends that I've known, but they are completely different friend groups. After the festival, now I see them hanging out in New York. I see their videos on Instagram, and it makes me happy. But it shows, it's proof to the strength of the relationships that were made. So the reaction of the people were priceless. I mean, a lot of people were scared to come, and a lot of our guests were female travelers, and female travelers would be especially, female travelers are definitely more worried or cautious to travel by themselves to a third world country. I mean, it's just the reality of the world. Mm-hmm. All the feedback from the female travelers was positive, that they wish that, Colombia didn't have this narcos kind of image, because it is, the people here are so warm and accepting, and again, it's an absolutely beautiful country in terms of nature. So the feedback was incredible. It motivated me to keep going, and it was honestly very rewarding at the end.
Nice. What is the Amazoul public like? What public does Amazoul attract?
That was our target. Our target was, middle of the pack, people that have good jobs, work a lot, don't maybe have the time to plan a trip. Because I've been living in Colombia for 2 years. But the first time I came to Colombia was 7 years ago. What I did, or what I saw, or what I experienced then and now is completely different. So if you don't have that insider knowledge, that insider view, you only get the tip of the iceberg. You only go to the touristic spots, you only go to the downtown area. So, especially if you're a hardworking, person with a career, and you don't have time to really Google and research where to go, what to do, you maybe you travel to these countries, but you do the basics, right? And I've been a victim to that, So I wanted to target people that over the years, leaving college, I had a group of friends that when we traveled, we would be 10 guys. Like I said, we went to Visa, 10 guys going as a group. And every year that people get married, or they have kids, or things happen, that group gets smaller and smaller. So, I might want to go to Colombia or Brazil or another country, but I might not go by myself, right? So we wanted people who are, in their late 20s, early 30s, who want to make new friends, don't maybe have the time, but are genuinely good people, have a love for music, have a curiosity for culture, for adventure, and for trying something new. That's definitely what was the most special part, because we had a lot of Colombian people attend the event as well.
Okay.
And they said that even that some, most of them don't speak English, they were able to connect with the Americans or get along. It seemed so natural, because everyone just had such a positive mindset. Going back to what I mentioned with the rain, we had to make a lot of changes, and there was a lot of complications with the rain. I mean, the buses couldn't even reach one of the hotels. Nobody complained. Nobody said, I want a refund, or had bad things to say. They had they understood the situations. They understood circumstances were out of our control, and they just went along with it. Everybody had a good energy, positive vibes, and it was those kind of people that we really target.
What makes Amazoul unique compared to maybe other festivals?
That's what I really think it is the community building. People coming back to the States and having new friendships. Like I said, if you're traveling in the car, in the bus, together with people you don't know, we pick people up from the airport in one car. We have lunch together as a group. We do yoga as a group. It's hard to go up to somebody in the middle of a party when the music's really loud and introduce, hey, my name's Dave. You're basically yelling your name. And, it's like, dude, I'm trying to listen. Stop talking to me, right? What are you doing right now? So it's hard to make friends when it's like in the middle of a DJ performance.
Correct.
But if I'm in a car, eating lunch, or doing yoga on a hike, and then I get to the party and I've done all these activities with you, I just say, what's up, buddy? You know what I mean? Like, we're already friends.
Right.
So once you do that for 4 or 5 days, you go back and you have new friendships, you have new people.
Sure.
You know, I'm not saying that these people are going to hang out every day, but now every time they travel, every 2-3 months, it's an easy, hey, are you going to the next Amazoul? Hey, I heard Amazoul is going to be here. Do you want to go? And you create a community.
Right.
So, you know, I went to BPM. I went to Buena Vida. I went to these festivals. Rarely did I leave with new friends. You know, I went with a few of my buddies, but I rarely left with new friendships made.
True.
Great DJs, great performances, but I didn't grow as a person. So that's the difference that we hope to offer, is that you get to really make deeper connections, really deep connections with these new people that you meet.
Right. Music is the heart of a festival. How did you select the artists?
That's another thing that we try to be really authentic on. So our lineup was really a mixture of two items. It was DJs from where our clientele comes, which was Miami and New York City. So we wanted DJs that would understand our crowd, but maybe play a little bit different because they're in a new setting. You know, we had Boris, who's the king of New York. I mean, he's been DJing in New York for 25, 30 years. We had Damelo, who's a friend of mine. He's also from Jersey. We had Coco Drills, one of the biggest DJs in Miami. So most of our clientele was from Miami and New York, that Miami, New York crowd.
Gotcha.
We wanted to have music that catered to them. However, the second half of our lineup, and this is moving forward, is always going to incorporate local talent. So we wanted to feature Colombian DJs that would give that Colombian flavor, that Colombian
Gotcha.
feeling to the festival. We had Ramon Bedoya, we had Kofla, we had Harvey Valencia, who's probably one of the biggest DJs right now.
For sure.
Moreno y Preto, who are right here from Medellin, Miguel H, Juan Draxler. I mean, we had a lot of local talent. So we wanted, you know, again, I mentioned this prior, but the amount of talent in Medellin, especially in terms of music, is incredible. If I can use Amazoul as a way to help those DJs gain exposure, get their name out, then it would be, you know, something I think that would be beneficial to us both. So again, the lineup curates to our clientele, but also to the location where the event's taking place. So we've already announced our next festival,
Okay.
and that's going to take place in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. It's going to be at the end of the year for New Year's. So it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more samba, and we plan to feature way more Brazilian DJs
Gotcha.
in that lineup.
That's nice. Why did you choose Brazil?
I feel like Brazil, or the whole culture, definitely aligns with Amazoul. Very vibrant, very positive, and very upbeat energy. You know, Brazil has its own dancing, it has its own music. Some of the DJs from Brazil are incredible. So and not to mention, we also try to pick places that, you know, Americans or just foreigners may hesitate to travel to because of language barriers, because of safety concerns.
Okay.
You know, if you go to Brazil by yourself, or if you go to Brazil with a group of 50 people, you definitely feel a little bit more safe,
For sure.
right? And if we have native speaking employees or staff members, it makes it easier to translate or get along or figure things out. So we wanted to target places that I would love to go to Brazil, but I might hesitate to go on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it aligns with our idea of music, of culture, of, you know, the energy. I mean, I know a lot of Brazilian people in New Jersey, and they're incredible people. So it checks all the boxes.
Is there maybe a sneak peek you can give us? Maybe any artist confirmed yet?
The only artist I can say for now is our resident DJ, which is Ramon Bedoya.
Ramon Bedoya.
He was a favorite of our fans at Amazoul. You know, we took a survey at the end. Everybody loved him. He was incredible. I work with him a lot. So he's going to be probably at all of our events moving forward. We're close to confirming 2 Brazilian artists already, but I can't get into further details on that. Just know that we're going to bring a really unique experience where, again, if you're going to a country, we want to put that country's style and that country's music on display.
I see. You know, everything's going so fast in this world. Music is not the exception. In this few years, how you felt like the music is going to?
You know, it's funny. I read an interesting stat a couple weeks ago that more songs get submitted to Spotify in one day now than in the entire year in 1990.
Wow.
So in the whole year of 1990, the amount of songs that were published, you have more songs published today
Per day. Ugh.
on Spotify. I mean, with electronics and, equipment recording, as opposed to, before it was bands, so you needed 4 or 5 people to free up time, right? Now you have Spotify, you have streaming platforms. Before you didn't have streaming platforms. So it makes it a little bit easier. So, any person can kind of put a track together on Ableton and just release it. But I feel like making those connections, right? So, speaking of Brazil is a huge country with a huge population. If I'm a Brazilian DJ, I would venture to say that it's easier for a Brazilian DJ to kind of blow up than it is for a Colombian DJ to blow up in a smaller country, right? So even though you have Spotify and because you have all this competition, it's really hard for a Colombian DJ to get attention in New York.
Right.
It's still thousands of miles away. So in terms of the fast-paced movement, you can kind of get lost in it. You can be very talented, but you can have a hard time gaining exposure. What makes you different from the other 5 DJs that are trying to leave Medellin and get a visa to play in New York? So that's something that I also want to help. I personally think Ramon is extremely talented. He has hundreds of songs, right? If I can be a bridge to gaining notoriety, to gaining fame in other parts of the world, that would be, something that would be rewarding for the both of us.
For sure. I'm pretty sure Ramon will appreciate all that, of course.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy, and I think he deserves it. I think it's his time.
For sure. What genres or what music you think is gonna dominate the present future of the electronic scene?
I do see Afro House growing a lot. I'm not crazy about it. I kind of like I call it salchipapa, like the tech house, the part. I really like the tech house, the Latin flavor. The Latin influence in house music in the last few years has been incredible. I mean, you see DJs, a perfect example. I was having this conversation with Matt Clooney, who's from the United Kingdom. He's a British DJ. Half of his songs have Latin words or Spanish vibes to them, and he's from the UK. The influence of, lyrics from reggaeton, from salsa being used in tech house in the last 5 or 10 years, you didn't see that 10 years ago.
Right.
I mean, when I started listening to house music, it was really 2 choices. You really had the mainstream EDM, David Guetta, Swedish House Mafia, or you had the dark techno, drum code, Adam Beyer, Chris Liebing. That's really all we knew, especially in New York. It was either, fluffy and marshmallow, or dark, warehouse vibes. Over the last few years, you kind of have this middle where you can just be kind of chilling, dancing, having a good time. And again, Spanish culture and music is very positive, very upbeat. And I think that adds a lot of flavor to the house scene. So I personally hope that tech house continues to grow. I see a lot of growth in the Afro house scene. It's not my style, but it's there. Some DJs are great, but overall, either one growing helps the other one, right? So the overall industry, I mean, you have DJs like Kind Music, right? I mean, they charge over $500,000 for a show, right? So the ceiling has now grown for the little guys, right? You might not get to that level, but you can start to charge a few $1,000s. Meanwhile, 10 years ago, a lot of DJing was a second gig. You couldn't make it a full-time job. You know what I mean? Nobody was paying that kind of money. So it's great to see it grow in whatever direction it is, but the last few years has definitely shot tremendously.
For sure. Is there any emerging artists, do you think we should keep an eye on them?
For you guys, Ramon is a household name, but he's just starting to gain popularity in America. We actually did an event in Pikachu, which was a free event.
Where the Jesus Christ is.
Where the Jesus statue is. And, once we put that on YouTube, we got over 50,000 views on YouTube. because for Americans, that's like, wow, that's something really different. And I was having this conversation with Ramon. He was able to track where his views and his listeners come from. And that number, after that video, the percentage of his followers that were from America shot up. So I think he's somebody that's definitely growing. Harvey, I mentioned before, has grown crazy in the last 2 or 3 years. I remember the first time I saw him like 5 or 6 years ago, there was 100 people there. And, you know, just last summer he was playing in Ibiza, right? So in terms of the Colombian DJs, those are the two biggest names for me. There are some other DJs that I like as of late that have grown. I really like Chase West. He's someone that's not that well known, but that's been growing recently. Angel Heredia is an amazing producer from Spain. There's a couple, there's a lot. There's a lot of talent also coming out of Venezuela. A lot. You have Tony Guerra,
Miguel Antones.
Yeah, Miguel Antones, you know. That was another one. I mean, we had him play at our villa party, and most people that came to the villa party didn't really know who they were. Now they sell out everywhere. They play at Space all the time, and they've grown tremendously. That's a great example.
How does Amazoul Fest influence in the local culture? Maybe a social impact. We saw a few videos on Instagram about it. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so for sure we want to have people experience the local culture. Colombia has very unique food, has very unique style. Guatapé, if you go in the downtown area, the architecture, the way the houses are painted and the colors, it's very unique, it's very authentic. So we want to put that on a spotlight, right? If people get to see that, and it's only a part of the experience, they're very willing to come back. I mean, the first time I came to Colombia, it was a one-time thing, right? And then I started coming back every 3 or 4 months until I was in a relationship with someone from Colombia. That's kind of how I ended up spending so much time here. But every time I came, I fell in love with the country more. I fell in love with the culture even more. So if we can give people that taste, whether it's the food, we had bandeja paisa, we had everything, sancocho, whether it's the music incorporating the Colombian DJs. A lot of Americans commented, they said, I've been listening to house my whole life. I've never really heard this kind of house before. So it definitely has, whether, I mentioned Moreno y Preto and Gru Taste. I mean, they have a very unique and incredible style, right? But it might not be, listened to in all other parts of the world. We try to experience those parts. One of the nights, so the first night of the event, we try to deter from house music. When it was in Medellin, we did reggaeton. In Brazil, we're planning to have a night of like Brazilian funk, right? So a little bit more Brazilian, maybe a little samba, having a performance, have rodillo. So we're definitely going to incorporate culture aspects. And then at the end of the day, you never want to forget that at the end of the day, you're in a third world country. Colombia has grown tremendously, but there is still parts of the country that are very poor. So just last week, with the help of some of our clientele who donated at Christmas time, we were able to help in a pueblo that's 1 hour outside of Medellin. We did some donations because it was back to school. As you know, in Colombia, the kids go back to school in February, and we donated back to school gift bags. So we do always want to remember that, life's not just a party. And even a little bit, $5, $20 from a lot of people can go a really long way in a country that still has some growth in terms of economic status and standard of living. So if we can give back to the community, if we can, eat at local small businesses, if we can use small businesses for our logistics, we can hopefully help that community grow even in a little bit.
Nice. Until nowadays, what has been like the biggest lesson you learned from the industry, the music industry?
Yeah, again, being an outsider was a struggle. I am a gringo, so we're talking in, big performances, big stages, big reservations. I didn't have the proof of concept. So I had to deal with a lot of Colombians who maybe didn't trust me, which is kind of natural, being an outsider. I didn't have people that could vouch for me. I didn't have friends and family. Like I said, I went to a big school in New Jersey. A lot of the kids I went to school with are now business owners, are now lawyers, are now, people that can make connections or connect me with people. When I did it here, I'm doing it from scratch. People are like, who is this guy? So building that was definitely a little bit of a challenge, but it just takes time. It takes time. It takes finding a few right people and trusting those people and trying to leverage their contacts and going step by step.
Gotcha. So someone who wants to start in this industry, doing festivals, what will be that lesson you will give to them?
I would say anything you try to do, as creative and unique the idea may seem, it's probably been done before, at least some way or somehow. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's a popular phrase in America, right? As opposed to trying to do everything from scratch, try to find someone or find something that's been done already and tweak it to your client, tweak it to your situation, make it better or make it your way, make it unique, but try to take things from businesses that are already successful. So I'll be honest, I based a lot of our initial ideas on Yacht Week, which has been an event taking place in Europe for years. A lot of what they did was similar, a lot of what they did is different. But using them as a basic blueprint helped me in a lot of ways because I wasn't starting from scratch. I wasn't making it up. So that would be my advice, would be to try to find someone that you can use as an example.
Okay, cool. And for those who want to go to Brazil and have that Amazoul Fest experience, how they can contact?
We don't have pricing or packages just yet.
Okay.
I'm actually going to Brazil in 2 weeks to finalize some of the negotiations in person. And once we're able to do, you have to really look somebody in the eye when you're doing with bigger sums of money and bigger expectations. So once we finalize that, we'll be able to release our pricing. All of that will be found on our website, amazoul.com. But all of our notifications, everything is on Instagram now.
Okay.
Instagram is the biggest source of social media. So if people follow our page, they'll be able to be kept up to date. They can also reach out to us. We do have a WhatsApp group where we keep all the information up to date. But that'll all be coming up in the next few weeks.
There's probably going to be packages, VIPs, everything, transportation.
Everything's included. The transportation, again, we want to eliminate the stress. You're on vacation. You don't want to be
struggling.
Exactly, especially if you don't speak the language. I speak Spanish, so it makes it easier for me. But if you don't, it could be difficult trying to find a car. And then, you get different pricing from different people. You don't know who's trying to rip you off,
right,
who's trying to give you a good deal. So we don't want people to have to worry about that. Our packages include everything. And to your question, we actually don't offer a VIP package.
Okay.
Our concept is that if you're coming to Amazoul, you are VIP.
Oh, okay, perfect.
There's not, our events don't have 500 people. They'll always be at 100 people or less. So if that's the case, if you've made the payment, if you're coming to the trip, you're already being treated as a VIP member. It's a private event up to 100 people with incredible DJs, everything catered to you. 5-star restaurants, 5-star food, everyone's VIP. So there's no leverage of packages, but the package does include everything together.
Okay. And for artists that maybe want to join the community of Amazoul Fest, how they can reach out?
We had it was actually crazy. There was one video that we did on Instagram that ended up getting like 16,000 views.
Wow.
And that video, there was 2 artists from Italy that were touring in South America that were like, hey, we're gonna be, in Ecuador at Lost Day Club, and we're gonna be in Argentina. Can we come and play at Amazoul? 2 or 3 artists contacted me from America. We ended up booking Papi Gavi, who was actually great, but he reached out to me So we're more than open to working with DJs that have the right energy. We want DJs to be able to also feel like part of the community. You know, all the DJs that came to play at Amazoul, they didn't have an ego, they didn't have any issues, they weren't, you know, a pain in the ass, excuse my language. So if DJs come to us and they have their unique style and it fits, but they also have a positive mindset, we're more than willing to work with them. Again, they can just reach out to our Instagram page, message us directly, and you know, we'll give everybody a shot.
Cool. David, where do you see Amazoul Fest maybe in the next upcoming 5 years?
The goal, the end goal for Amazoul is to actually have a country club, a base here in Medellin. So not be a nightclub where you can only go out at night and you can only drink alcohol and party, but a day club where you can have meditation, spa, English classes, Spanish classes, you can do yoga, you can do music classes. We want to have a mini music school. So basically this club that has all these activities during the day, it gives a reason to come and hang out and maybe see people that you saw at previous events. Again, building that community feeling. So my goal eventually is to have a physical location here in Medellin, but then to continue to travel the world in exotic countries. I don't want to give too much away, but we do plan to go to other continents. Brazil was definitely our next target, but we have a few countries in mind for the future, as well as maybe mixing it up the seasons. So maybe going into a colder climate, you know, seeing where the next few years take us. But we do want to get to the point where we can have an event maybe every 2-3 months.
David, we appreciate you for having you here in Fuera del Track microphones. Hope to see you in Brazil. We all want to go to that festival for sure. This was Fuera del Track, the magazine of electronic music. Remember to follow us, like, and subscribe.